السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد يقول سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن تجتنبوا كبائر ما تنهون عنه نكفر عنكم سيئاتكم وندخلكم مدخلا كريما رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. In today's khutbah, I'd like to offer a short reflection about a very familiar story in the Quran and, a sense of direction that we can maybe draw from that story. But before I do that, I'd like to talk a little bit about the ayah I just mentioned, which is found in Surah Nisa, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you are to repel yourself and distance yourself from things that are highlighted or the major sins, the things that are, egregious missteps, if you push yourself away far from those, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will overturn your small mistakes into good deeds, and He will bring you to a place of honor. And مُدْخَلًا كَرِيمًا is here it could be a place of honor. It's referencing Jannah, a key to paradise, but also it could be a place of honor in this world as well. And so, a lot of times, Islam and religions in general are characterized as lists of prohibitions. And then there's also always another party that fires back with, no, actually they're not lists of prohibitions, they're lists of things you should do. And what we read from the Quran is that both of these things are mentioned, and the way we should live our lives is mentioned in both of these frameworks, both these mindsets. So the difference between praying your salah on time and not missing your salah is very little. The difference right there lies in the time of wherever the salah is supposed to be. And so a lot of times when you think about how these things are worded and how they're framed, we shouldn't be distraught when they're presented in a prohibitive way or a negative or pessimistic way versus a way that's encouraging. And both of them have their uses and both of them have their utilities. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if you repel the things and push away the things and don't do the things that are very bad, that you'll be taken to a place of honor. And so, more on that later, but for now we'll go to the story of Nuh alayhi salam. And Nuh alayhi salam is renowned as one of the prophets who preached for the longest times. He preached for centuries in 950 years, which is an incredibly long amount of time that for us to conceptualize. Our lives will never reach that that length here in this world. And what's highlighted often in his story is his resolve in with his people, especially given the fact that despite all this time preaching to them the same message, a consistent message, and despite his example of character being there for so long, he was only able to walk away with what we see as a small tangible result. That he at the end of all those years, all he had was a handful of people that could fit on his ship, and were true believers. And other than that, you might think that he wasn't successful. And that's something that is highlighted in his story, is looked at, the resolve that Nuh alayhi salam had. And that's the first thing I'd like to talk about in today's khutbah is, the patience we have to have with change, and the gradual change. And, here, Nuh alayhi salam was endeavored to change an entire people. And, we're given in the Quran the way that we can approach changing an entire people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. That Allah will not overturn the condition of a people, surrounding a people, until they look within themselves and introspect within themselves and change what they find within themselves. So, our own approach to changing the condition of a people, our people, is looking firstly looking inward and changing what is within ourselves. And so, moving along, I'd like to I'll touch on the second part of Nuh alayhi salam's story that came after his calling, after I present you with this, what might be a more familiar metaphor to look at in the modern context. So I'm going to go on a small tangent about forest fires, and afterwards we'll come back to the story of Nuh alayhi salam, so please bear with me. But, we hear about forest fires sometimes in the news, in Australia or California or wherever it may be, as this very detrimental force and catastrophic force, and it certainly can be. But another thing we learn from, environmental science today is that forest fires can have a lot of benefit for a forest. So if over time, what happens in a forest is that things build up on the forest floor: sticks, debris, branches. These kind of things build up over time. And what a forest fire can do, by burning those things away, is create a more fertile soil for trees to grow and the forest to come back stronger. And it's a process of renewing the forest. But what can happen if the fires are prevented for too long of a time is that material on the forest floor can build up too high. And then eventually, when even a small ignition does happen, the fire burns so intensely that there's no more soil left, that it cannot be brought back afterwards. That the buildup of material that's been ignored, that hasn't been burned for so long, can cause an absolute catastrophe that the forest is not able to recover from on its own. And so, coming back to Nuh alayhi salam's story, what is characteristic of his people is that they would reject the truth from him over and over and over, and eventually they were wiped out by the flood. And it's interesting to look at, the language that's used, firstly, when Nuh alayhi salam describes the condition of his people, and secondly, when we have direct quotes of his advice that he gave to them. And so the condition of his people was that, or the advice that he gave to his people was, فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا. And there are, versions of this idea that he implored his people to seek istighfar, to seek forgiveness. And so, what their mission was, and what Nuh really implored them to do, was to actually look for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. And that would cause, that would allow them to be saved. And, you think about what the reason might be for somebody not wanting to accept, or not wanting to go and seek that forgiveness. And it might just be that, it could be the case that they were lazy, or they didn't feel like it was important, or it could be something more. It could be something more to that. And then that's alluded to, when Nuh alayhi salam describes the actual reaction of his people. And he complains to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, when I reach out to them and when I call them towards you, they stick their fingers in their ears. And that's actually, that's explicitly said in the surah. And, when you think of somebody speaking to somebody and they stick their fingers in their ears, well, there's a couple things that could mean. Firstly, somebody's mocking you, right? You're saying something to them, and they stick their fingers in their ears. They have no respect for what you're saying. Or it could be, in a more real meaning that, they don't want to hear what you're saying. They don't necessarily want to hear it. And why would they not want to hear it? Well, because for a lot of reasons, but maybe because when you're presented with information, you can either accept the information as true and act on it, or deny it and reject it. And accepting it as the truth means you necessarily share some guilt if you don't act on it. And so that was the condition of Nuh alayhi salam's people. They rejected the truth because they didn't want to accept it, and they didn't want to make istighfar because they didn't want to reject the truth. And so an idea that might come into your mind after hearing all this is sacrifice. They didn't want to sacrifice the life that they had for the life they knew they should live. And a lot of times when we hear the word sacrifice, we think, especially in the religious context, we think of meat or a korbani. But you have to think of it in a symbolic context. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لَا يَنَالَ اللَّهُ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا. When he talks about sacrifices, it's not just meat that's going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the taqwa. Sacrifice itself is a product of taqwa. And that's really good news for us, because that means the idea of sacrifice is applicable in almost every aspect of our lives. You sacrifice time, energy, effort, all of these things, even just mental space, thinking about something. These are all sacrifices you have to make to reach that. And they're all ultimately a product of your taqwa and your God consciousness, and your willingness to be God conscious. And so, back to the people of Nuh alayhi salam, what they didn't want to do was seek istighfar, and what he wanted them to do was seek istighfar. And why specifically istighfar? Well, when you think about it this way, if you have to sit down and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, you may be asking for forgiveness in general, and that's a very good thing. And you might be asking for forgiveness for a specific thing that you've done in the past. And if you sit down and just alone and think to yourself sincerely, like, what are the mistakes that I make or have made, that you might find the case may be that the mistakes that you make are not necessarily just one-time mistakes. A lot of the mistakes that we make that are in fact big mistakes, we make them routinely and habitually. And so, being able to sit down and make istighfar to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open up to us what those sacrifices are that we have to make. Well, you sit down and ask yourself, what are the things I do wrong? And you sit down and sincerely make an effort to think about what I do wrong on a daily and continual basis. Something will stick out to you. And when you fix that, you've decided to make the sacrifice, and you've pushed you've pushed yourself farther from something that's truly evil, and you've brought and the effect of many people doing that is the entire nation becomes farther from something like a flood. And so, with that, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us people who can sit down and truly turn to Him sincerely for istighfar, with the intention of fixing the things that we do currently in our lives and the wrongs we've done in the past. And I ask Him to make us people who are not too arrogant to overlook that, and not too lazy to put it off until it's too late. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب عباد الله رحمكم الله اتقوا الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إنا أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه أن أنذر قومك من قبل أن يأتيهم عذاب أليم قال يا قوم إني لكم نذير مبين أن اعبدوا الله واتقوه وأطيعون يغفر لكم من ذنوبكم ويؤخركم إلى أجل مسمى إن أجل الله إذا جاء لا يؤخر لو كنتم تعلمون قال رب إني دعوت قومي ليلا ونهارا فلم يزدهم دعائي إلا فرارا وإني كلما دعوتهم لتغفر لهم جعلوا أصابعهم في آذانهم واستغشوا ثيابهم وأسروا واستكبروا استكبارا ثم إني دعوتهم جهارا ثم إني أعلنت لهم وأسررت لهم إسرارا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. فقلت استغفروا ربكم إنه كان غفارا يرسل السماء عليكم مدرارا ويمددكم بأموال وبنين ويجعل لكم جنات ويجعل لكم أنهارا ما لكم لا ترجون لله وقارا وقد خلقكم أطوارا ألم تروا كيف خلق الله 7 سماوات طباقا وجعل القمر فيهن نورا وجعل الشمس سراجا والله أنبتكم من الأرض نباتا ثم يعيدكم فيها ويخرجكم إخراجا والله جعل لكم الأرض بساطا لتسلكوا منها سبلا فجاجا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.